I asked you what you struggled with the most in running, and staying injury-free was a landslide victory. Over 800 of you voted and nearly 50% struggle with this, and understandably so. In a sport growing so fast and so many people embarking on their running journey, there's bound to be hiccups along the way. More experienced runners will testify for the fact that you often go through a phase where you increase your intensity or volume, try to push on to the next level and encounter a bit of a roadblock with injuries as your body adjusts to the new training load. So I want to share 5 things for you guys to think about and reflect on your own training if this is a boat that you're in and you're currently struggling to string some consistent weeks of training together. Now, I watched a great video from This Messy Happy the other day, and basically Ben said, I'm going to stay in my lane when I talk about this sort of stuff because he is a running coach, not a PT. And so I'm going to reiterate that statement. I'm going to stay in my lane with a lot of what I say today. What this video is not is a qualified person telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing. What this video is someone who has a lot of running experience, coaches athletes with different job working hours, with families, not with families, and other commitments that we have to shuffle things around. Things that we've managed to work through and allow them to string some solid weeks of training together and get those PBs. So without further ado, let's dive in. Now, this first one is all about recovery. I really apologize. I've got to talk about this. It would be stupid for me to omit this from the video. I did actually talk about it in my previous video. The next 4 points, hopefully it will be a bit more interesting, but I've got to cover the basics, and that is simply a case of my last point in my last video was invest in yourself. So when it comes to recovery, of course, there are recovery tools, which I discussed, and of course, looking after yourself and making sure you fuel, hydrate, and sleep well. Again, that is the most underrated recovery tool that we can use, and it's absolutely free. I know a lot of us struggle to sleep. We have kids, we have families. Been there, I've had young kids, I now have older kids, but I still have a younger kid. Some nights are an absolute nightmare. Recovery tools are great to help along the way as well, but I think the main thing that a lot of people struggle with, and I'm talking from experience here, is we try and fit in our runs before work, maybe after work, we get back through the door and we don't have time to take care of ourselves. Now, I feel like I'm in a fortunate situation where I'm self-employed, I have my own office, so I do have a massage gun here, and I can take 5 or 10 minutes out when I get to the office to stretch and roll. That's absolutely fine. I know it's not the case for a lot of people. So what can we do? Because if we don't do any form of basic stretching or use any recovery tools, and we literally just finish our run without a sufficient cool down and get into work and carry on with our day, muscle tightness can set in. Muscle tightness can lead to muscle knots can lead to injuries can lead to us taking time off work, and actually a lot of the time injuries can be prevented from just a little bit of basic stretching. So when you get in from your house, what can you do? If you've got any spare 5 minutes, making a cup of tea, coffee, cleaning your teeth, do a couple of stretches, try and loosen off that body. Do try and use that massage gun or foam roller if you have to, and honestly, I'd actually probably consider cutting your run 5 minutes short and just shortening things a bit so that you can invest that 5 minutes that you save there into doing something at home ready before you start the day. I honestly think it makes the world of difference. It's something that I've got into a habit of doing, and I know a lot of my athletes do as well. Moving on, number 2, don't stick to a 7-day cycle. This is actually such an obvious thing, but something that a lot of us don't do. I actually stick to a 7-day cycle myself, but I have experimented with 9 and 10 and 14-day cycles, and I would say that over half my athletes are probably on a 14-day cycle plan, where, as an example, we might have 2 midweek workouts and then an easier long run, and then we might have 1 midweek workout, a more easier or maybe a progressional aerobic run midweek, and then a long run workout. It just helps spread things out a little bit, it lessens the load, and it allows us to stack up those weeks, because ultimately we know what the saying is: if you stack up the weeks like bricks, that's what's going to get you fit. It's not the odd session, it's not the odd long run, it is week after week consistency. But that's just an example I use for my athletes. There are plenty of other ones like the 9-day cycle, where you can do a session every 3 days. So easy session, easy session, easy session. If you've got that flexibility, again, I appreciate that's not something everyone can do. Potentially look at changing up your long runs on the weekend so that you have one less intense long run, one more intense long run, because I know that the long run can often take a lot out of people. And then on the weeks where you have the more intense long run, lessen the load midweek, and when you have a lighter long run, increase the load in the week. So you just get a good balancing act, rather than loading up 1 week and then the next week and then start to overload it and your body breaks down. I'll repeat one more time, consistency is key. If you can find a way that is not a 7-day cycle that will benefit you more absolutely go for it. We only do that because we're governed by our working time in the weekends. It does not mean you have to follow it, even to the point where just easy run until you feel ready to session again. Easy run until you feel ready to session again. That can be whenever you feel like it. Again, a lot of us are governed by club nights, and I appreciate that's a great social thing, but sometimes maybe just consider dropping one of those just to allow yourself to recover, and then drop that session in they did at the club later in the week. Number 3, consider changing your training style. So again, a lot of us are drummed into us that we've got to do session Tuesday, Thursday, and a long run on Saturday or Sunday, whenever it might be, and that long run might have a little bit of intensity in there as well. This is something that I think a lot of people train to. It's how I train, but I've also trained in other ways where I've just done a session on Wednesday and then one on Saturday. Dropping one intense workout a week is also absolutely fine, and a lot of people run to the 80-20 rule. There are so many ways to train. If you're running 5 days a week, it basically means that 4 of your runs are going to be nice and easy, and you just do one hard run. However, that again is not the only way to train. There are so many ways to skin a cat. You could be doing threshold work, you could be doing polarized training, you could be doing single threshold training, which is something that's really popping off and I did a video about recently. You could try double threshold training if you want to increase the intensity and you're at that point, but that's probably not advisable when we're talking about staying injury free. And you could just try dropping into a base phase where you're simply doing easy and steady mileage below your LT1, and then just dropping in the odd light tempo and some strides each week, just to allow your body to build up some consistency. Remember, I know that there are these fixed ways of training. If you have a coach like myself, or if you have plans that you get off the internet, they will have a structure. If it is not working for you and you continually break down, talk to your coach. If you don't have a coach, find another plan, seek advice, and try and work out a way where you can drop a little bit of intensity that will allow you to string some good weeks together. Number 4, change your paces. If you like the structure that you're in, but you're just finding it a little bit too much, you're building up a bit too fatigue, having to miss the odd run here and there, and you're not quite on that injury bench, but you are worried about getting there, then just adjust your paces. It is as simple as that. I have done over the last 10 weeks, and will continue to up to my marathon, I've adjusted things so that I'm running a lot more controlled around threshold efforts, whether it's my LT1 or LT2. I'm sticking to those efforts. What I found in the past, quick story, is when I was training for my 5K block earlier in the year, I could no longer handle 2 fast workouts a week. I'm 38 now. I need to adapt my training so that I can keep up the 3 sessions a week, and I need to drop a speed session and replace it with a threshold session. So my structure ended up being fast Tuesday with that 1 speed session a week, threshold Thursday, and then a very long, slow, relaxed tempo run on the weekend, or I should say tempo work, where my long run only reached 90 minutes and I just dropped in some tempo work that was in and around my marathon effort. That control led me to a 15:44, which I'm obviously absolutely delighted about, but 2 or 3 years ago, if I was doing a 5K block, I'd have been doing 2 fast sessions a week. I just can't handle it anymore, and we have to adapt to our bodies. So I adjusted the paces and it worked out really well. Again, I talk to a lot of people about this. Anyone that I can chew their ear off on, to be honest with you, just adjust your paces. It's okay to drop things back. You don't need to be a hero in training. Remember, probably said this 10 times already in the video, stack those weeks up. That's all you're looking to do. So if you have to dial the intensity back on your training, you want to keep up with the club sessions, you want to keep up with your mates on your Thursday or your weekend long run, then do it. But just drop the ego, drop the paces. It's okay if it allows you to complete that week of training. Consider threshold work instead of that faster top end work. Anything that will allow you to string those weeks together. And finally, I've got to mention it, and I'm really sorry, but it's strength work. Of course it's going to be strength work because of course strengthening up our bodies to handle the training load is super important. But something that was a common theme on the poll that I put out there in the comments was time. A lot of people struggle with time just to get out and run, mixing it up, balancing it with the family and work and all that stuff, and I totally understand it. I went through a phase where I had to get up super early. As my kids have got older, I'm a bit more flexible now, but we've all been there in a position where we've had to really squeeze the time down on our runs. My weekly volume was down just because I had to fit stuff in, and strength training is absolutely no different at all. I also feel like unless you come from a strength background, it's really something that's off-putting for a lot of runners, and I think a lot of runners just don't want to do it. They just want to run more, which ultimately running more will get you fit, but if you keep breaking down, there's obviously something fundamental going on that needs to be addressed. The one thing I'm going to say, and as I said, I will stay in my lane with this because I'm not qualified, But the one thing that massively helped me was core work. It's purely and simply core work. I do other strength and conditioning for my upper back. I tend to neglect my legs. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I do everything on my body. My legs I don't tend to do. I'll often do bird dogs to activate the posterior chain before I get out there, and some squats, and when I get out the door I'll do some walking lunges, 5 forward, 5 back, and then I'll go on my run. And I've done that routine for about 2 years now, and over time it's helped, I guess, but obviously it's so minimal that it's not going to make a big difference in a short space of time. However, what I have said to myself and bargained with myself is that if I am going to dedicate time to doing strength work, I'm going to focus on the core work and the upper back if I get the time. Now, I have prioritised upper back more recently, but the core has always been a staple through my running. I used to get issues where my diaphragm used to get compressed as I folded over and got tired. That would cause stitches, and that can often be a big issue for runners. I know I'm not the only one to suffer that. A lot of people say they get that as well. So by strengthening the trunk allows you to be more stable, it holds everything else together, and then what you'll often find is some of those issues and niggles that you'll be getting might start to get a little bit better as your body is holding itself more stable from the center. I find the core to obviously be the linchpin of everything, so little niggles that I might get in my hip or my glute completely disappear when I do core work, because something might be activating or something might be taking control when another muscle should be doing it, but because my core's so weak it just can't hold me up, so something else kicks in. Just like your lower back, that's often when your glutes aren't switched on, or your hamstring, your lower back or your hamstring takes over, takes the load, gets the strain, and it's just game over from there. So strengthening from the core outwards is often something that I've found to be really effective. But as I said, I'm not qualified, it's just something that's worked for me really well. And I know a lot of you guys that I talk to at races and training and stuff also say core work is something that you wouldn't be without. So I think it speaks volumes when we see a lot of the more serious runners doing core work on a regular basis. So what is the summary of this video? Well, of course, if you are trying to stay injury free, trying to string some weeks together, don't be bound by the traditional method. There are plenty of other training routes you can go down. Don't be bound by the 7-day week cycle. It's just not necessary. You can move things around. Paces, adjust them, strength train if you can. And if you are struggling for time, do consider shaving 5 or 10 minutes off a run and just doing that for 6 to 8 weeks so you can get back and do a little bit of stretching, a little bit of mobility with the time that you would have used whilst you're out there on the run. For a short 6 to 8 to 10 week period out of your whole running life, it's going to be such a small snippet in time to make sure that you're more robust moving forwards. And if you did enjoy this video, guys, you might enjoy this one up here. This is talking about the things that I would buy on day one of marathon training. Save wasting your money. These are the 6 things that I would really invest in, and as I mentioned at the start, one of them being investing in yourself. And if you enjoyed that one, check out this video down here. This one should be interesting to you as well, and hopefully I'll see you guys over on one of those.